Hello everyone on the internet and thanks for tuning in. I'm RyuKiva of RyuKiva Toku.
And welcome to another episode of Toku Bros. I'm Dragon Zeron of the Tokusatsu Media Center.
Power Rangers Beast Morphers.
It's morphin' time!
Now that's Go Busters, but it is also technically Beast Morphers and the whole franchise anyway, but
Pretty much.
let's morph in. So this is what we're talking about today in our final Ranger talk of the year. Even though it's only June. So we are talking about the second half of the second season of Power Rangers Beast Morphers. How do you think about this one, boy?
Man, this was probably the best season we had in a long time. I'm
also I'm also really excited to be talking about this one again. Like it's the end of the first. It's literally Hasbro's finishing intro to being in the franchise. And I will say that, the episodes that have been airing, they have been premiering in the UK, which after 2.5 decades plus, we've normally been a year to 6 months behind. Obviously, it's not been so bad with the dawn of the internet where everyone can just watch online anyway. But to have it airing in the UK first, I mean, Australia's had it more than not. France has had it a couple years here and there, mainly during the Megaforce era. But for us to have Hasbro's era, the first Hasbro era, it's been amazing. I mean, I've been absolutely gutted because I've been redecorating my room, hence I'm stuck in the silver morphing grid right now. But even though I'm still carrying on and my setup will be finished soon, I've actually taken specific time out to actually catch up on the episodes where I've been a couple of days behind our own airing, and yet hopefully they will do this again for us in the UK, and I will actually watch it as it's broadcasting. But still, this has been it's been a good series, but we are talking about the second half of the second series. So I'm going to kick it off with talking about episode 9, the Evox Snare as it's called. So coming off the back end of the first half, we have seen Evox's double identity exposed. Yet they start off by trying to actually defeat Evox at the very beginning, which is quite a bold move, bearing in mind everyone knows the hype that's going to be going on in this final half of season 2. But yet we see Devon show that he's not happy with the fact that they're going to kill off his father who's stuck inside Evox. So we do get our first half of sort of snippets of what's to come, and we get a brief cameo from Dr. K, which being a massive fan of RPM was actually pretty good in itself. But I was a bit miffed because I mean all I've known about the second half really is about Jason's return. But I think I had seen screenshots of Dr. K.
She appeared through a camera, basically video calling with
trans-dimensional call,
Yeah, and she explained to Devon how basically that although their splitter emitters that they use could not be used for Dylan, but she did say that they could possibly do what they did with Zenowing, and when he was in the Silver Ranger, and therefore he should try to contact the Dino Charge Rangers about it. So this is where all the team ups and stuff start coming into play, and it does really, really well to set up this arc. I
mean, when it comes to setting up the whole second half, which bear in mind it is split into maybe 2-3 smaller arcs, I did kind of feel it quite random when they started talking about the Ranger Vault and Ranger History class, which is kind of like, I mean, alright, we know that, season 1 and the first half of season 2, it's all about X, it's about the morphing grid, but then all this stuff about the Ranger Vault and Ranger History classes, kind of it felt like it appeared a little bit out of nowhere.
I would agree with that because if they showed him, oh, like, did you go to like history class?
I mean,
Or
they
maybe
could have
they.
done. I mean, for all the episodes prior, they really could have like just taken 10 seconds per episode
Mhm.
to establish something along the lines of there's a Ranger Vault over there, or we've got, because they do kind of say about the tech that they've got from previous series, but it's not really, in my opinion, it's not really elaborated on. But I do kind of feel that that's kind of a small detail for, like, again, the whole picture. But specifically this episode, the one thing I absolutely love is how Devon's got this perseverance and hope of trying to get his father back, when everyone's just like, oh, I mean, again, it's almost reverse cliche, because you'd kind of think that really the Ranger team would want to save the mayor, because he is as well. But they kind of seem to have gone more all in on just trying to destroy Ewoks, which again, that's a cliche in itself that they try to destroy him so early on. But again, I absolutely loved Devon's, the actor's acting.
Yeah, his acting is
He did
really
it really
solid
well for
compared to
this,
Brody.
and I absolutely bought into his feelings and emotions to try to save his father in this one.
Like, I think he's the actor that stood out the most in this series, to be honest with you, with how everything went and stuff. I think he's the one who, like, had the most solid, and I'm very happy that we got to see him, like, out of Red Ranger, you know what I mean? Because he did good.
We will talk about the cast acting right at the end of this very long review.
They did kind of change the story of Go Busters a bit, where, if you haven't seen Go Busters, spoilers, Enter was actually the final villain. Messiah or Vaglas or whatever his name was.
Messiah. Well, I mean, in Go Busters, the final villain was actually Enter as Dark Buster, like Dark Red Buster or something.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold it against Beast Morphers, the fact that they went with Ewoks as the final villain anyway. And I think we kind of knew that for Beast Morphers from season 1 even anyway, from like spoiler images and figure reveals, that kind of thing.
Moving on to episode 10, Intruder Alert. We basically get to see the adaptation of Gavan, RyuKiva Gavan from the Space Sheriff series. And his name is Captain Chaku. And like basically when the Rangers first meet him, they basically think he's actually the Ryjack, because they actually got a transmission from the commander saying, oh, there's this galactic being that's going around and basically causing issues for everybody in the galaxy and stuff. So basically, Captain Chaku shows up, and turned out he's trying to use the Morphex to try to get some energy in him, because he's like really low. He needs to charge up his energy or something. And like the Ranger, like since he speaks an alien language, he basically does not speak any he's not speaking English, so they think he's actually the enemy. So therefore, they take him into custody, and it was only until later they saw Squallow and Ryjax, I think, working together, and therefore it made them want to be like, okay, what do we need to do? Yeah, and therefore they're like, okay, we need to help him, basically, Captain Chaku steals the thing that's needed to charge him and stuff.
Intruder Alert. It was a decent episode. Apart from the fact that the one thing that absolutely bugged me is how they, when the Americans do a suit, they really mess it up. So Gavin being a chrome and highly detailed suit, to then have him having the American adaptation, it just looked like they'd painted the dustbin and put it on top of it.
Well, I think
absolutely poor, in my opinion.
Well, I think
they put in the suit. Or just I don't know, used more footage rather than trying to do it originally. But in terms of the character, I absolutely love the character Captain Chaku. And the whole thing about this must be the bad guy, and the fact is all the stuff about the Morphex, that was a bit cliche, as I always say. But I absolutely love that. I mean, the Ryjack character, absolutely had me in stitches. This guy has such a strong British accent.
No, it's Australian. I heard Australian.
You heard Australian? To be fair, British and Australian accents do sound similar. And again, to be fair, it is a New Zealand cast anyway. So I believe they must mostly be New Zealand. But to me, that sound quite British. But it's neither here nor there. Maybe I'm probably wrong on that one. But to me, it sounded like a South England accent to me. But that's me, right? But one of the things about this episode is with Ryujak's technology, I absolutely screamed when I saw the putties appear on the screen. Ryujak is actually a Gavan villain as well.
Yeah, I know, Rhino Doubler.
And so there were a lot of original elements anyway to Hasbro and Beast Morphers credit. Look at me, and I had no idea that they were bringing the putties back. So seeing them in, like original fight scenes, to give Beast Morphers its credit, the fight scenes on that construction site were mint. They were absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I'm shocked they actually were able to get the suits back together, or at least
I think they were new, to be fair. I think they were new suits because they looked a lot better for one compared to the 90s,
But yeah, they were very spot on, and I'm very happy with what they brought. And this is where Beast Morphers starts to become like an anniversary season that we needed. You know what I mean?
The thing is, that's kind of the one thing I felt about the second season overall, is that it's not an anniversary season at all, but in my genuine opinion, it's done a much better job than
Power Rangers Ninja shit or Ninja Steel.
Whatever you want, but I think it's been, again, it's not even an anniversary series, but I'll talk about the the nostalgic elements later. Going on to episode 11 though, The Greater Good. Again, this is where we get to see more of those fight scenes on the construction site, and we've got the conclusion of Chaku's story. I mean, we do see Nate accidentally eavesdropping on Chaku's conversation with his daughter. He does reveal that he's a cyborg of some description.
And can I tell you what I would have done if I was a story writer? I would have had, instead of enhancements and stuff, I would have been like, oh, this is a life support system, because when I was chasing Ryujak, something happened, or Ryujak's gang, because he did say that he was a part of a gang. It would have been cool to have been like, hey, I almost got killed, and the G5 Galaxy police decided to give me some, a life support system, basically, so that I could be able to still fight on and stuff. And therefore, I'm no longer technically human. I'm a cyborg. So.
Well, we've got all this back. I mean, again, when it comes to Chaku, he's such a nicely rounded, established character. Even if he was only in it for 2 episodes, they did a much better job of this than with Skyfire and Ninja Steel. Yeah, we do have this whole, and the thing that became cliche in this second half is they kept, Commander Shaw kept asking everyone to join the team, which does make sense because she's got a team to run. So, she does ask Chaku to begin with, and again, he's like, oh, he's got to go at the end of the episode, which is always the case, which becomes a cliche in itself. But yet, I'll say, again, looking at Chaku's character, I absolutely love the whole, compassion he feels to his job. And I think they kind of shoehorn the fact that he was supposed to be retiring anyway. And then Nate makes him fully human again, which again, it's very happy ending as you will. At least a strong storyline that we get. It makes Beast Morphers almost, pretty much Sentai-esque in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this. Because that's the thing about Sentai. You get some pretty good stories if you have the right writers. Look at Riko Sanjo or Kobayashi or something like that. You know what I mean? They write some great shows, and if we had from what I've heard, Becca Barnes was actually the main writer for this show, and she I think they gave her a lot more freedom than she had in the past. Because I remember people bashing her for writing some really, really shitty episodes. But the thing is, if you look back, and see like now like you could tell that she was allowed to have a lot more creative freedom, so therefore she was able to explore the realms of a story, you know what I mean? And by the way, I think there's also Chip Lynn thing, because I think he's off, since this is going to be his last thing until they decide to bring him back in another, I don't know, 5 years or so, because they just announced they had a new producer now. But like basically, he's gonna be. I think he wanted to go all out and decided to give us Power Ranger fans like a good story. You know what I mean?
I
So
think when it comes to the Power Ranger fans, I mean, there is a little bit about original storytelling and unique storytelling versus, seeing what fans want in returns of nostalgia, because people are always going to be two sides of it anyway.
moving on to episode 12, Finders Keepers. We get to see the Rangers try to find Ryjack's chip, who I think is still alive. I don't know. Sure, we don't have.
No, he had been
But like
defeated.
basically, Dino Charge, like the Keeper shows up after Zoe. Yeah, she gets blasted when she steps onto the ship to try to try to find the weapon stash, because they knew of a weapon stash, like a legendary weapon stash from like Ryjack, like basically claiming. And like we get to see Snide's sword with what's some Dino Charge's villain's name? Snide?
Sledge.
No, not Snide. Sledge. We see Sledge's blaster. And therefore, Scrozzles, he has a reanimator that runs on Julie. Because we do got to talk about episode 22, because this does take place between those
We
two
will
episodes.
be talking about that one next, actually. So with episode 12, Finders Keepers, I do actually find personally that this is a very cleverly titled episode, because it's referring to Keeper of Dino Charge mentorship. I'll say it was a bit sad that Riley and Shelby didn't show up in Human, because, I mean, Shelby was the first black, pink female.
I heard she's been trying to like distance herself from the Power Rangers.
She has a lot. I mean, I
sadly.
do follow her on social media, so I do know.
Like hell, I think she even posted like.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the constant return of Sledge, because he was back in Ninja Steel and now he's back today, but back in this episode. But I'll still say that seeing all those weapons on Ryjack's ship, it does bring back a heavy lot of nostalgia. Seeing Lord Zed's staff was really cool. I absolutely love that. But I think only looking back do I see they then regenerated Snide. And like seeing in the clip show that they then rejuvenate Goldar. It's a very clever time, the fact that the Sentai crossover had Griforza and
Tractors
from
Alba Ranger.
So
I don't even remember
that
his
really
name.
clever. And it was kind of like I wasn't really following it on the Sentai line at this point. But like seeing like Sledge and his team being brought back, and as much as I love Sledge and Dino Charge, he was already brought back from Ninja Steel, which was flagging anyway. So I felt a bit two-sided about him being brought back, even if he was a decent character. I personally preferred Heckle to have been brought back as well.
Now that they could have done something with the Death Ranger.
There.
It would have been cool to see him come back and maybe play, like, have the Death Ranger suit be used. That's good, you know what I mean?
The Death Ranger suit was used in the Boom Comics Studio adaptation, but we don't actually get to see it in the Power Ranger TV show.
Yeah, which kind of sucks, because it is actually a great looking suit, and I think Koichi
suit.
Sakamoto could have done something if they brought him back to New Zealand to shoot some stuff. So they do a trade to try to take Keeper, and they do the villain thing where they actually end up keeping it and just tricking the Rangers. But that's when the Dino Charge Rangers show up, and we get to see Yoshi, aka Koda.
Yeah. And Brendan Major, I mean, bringing back the Dino Charge team was pretty decent. I can't really say too much apart from, it was great. It's just a shame that all six didn't reappear. And, there were so many additional characters as well, just as it was for Kyoryuger. But I'll still say, there was still a lot of tropes going on. So, Zoe going off on her own and tripping Ryjack's security system.
Was this our first ever team up?
The betrayal of the enemies as well. Again, it's really done. But, like, I think there's only so much they can do because, especially when it comes to how Dino Charge was a series, it's very Nickelodeon. So you've got a lot of that sort of goofy cliche going on in that series anyway, as much as it was pretty popular, and even I liked it. But, yeah, they could have done so much more with it, in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, I would have loved to have seen, like, maybe... they could have gotten like the voice actor to play them. Maybe they could have paid some money and maybe explain, the energy from the energy from our world, the crossover, is way too much to send everybody else. So we decided to send like a non-human form. They could explain something like that. Where they.
There's too many infinite possibilities for that, but I think. Yeah, at least they kind of tried their best. But again, we already saw like Coda come back from Ninja Steel anyway.
To play an ancestor.
Either done him again, or I don't think, because 4 out of 6 to me just kind of felt a little bit unbalanced. So looking into Making Bad, it's actually a very bizarre clip show that they've done here. Like, it goes against, the typical standard format of a clip show in both Sentai and Ranger. Yet we get to see how Hasbro managed to do this. And it's kind of clever, and again, they've got all these weapons from Ryjack that they managed to trick out and stuff. And, seeing this, it wasn't a clip show of Beast Morphers. It's like we get to see in space, we get to see Mighty Morphin, we get to
Mystic Force.
We get to see Mystic Force, which again is the only Disney era that they really make reference to, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, because that's the first time ever they actually mentioned the Disney era, you know what I mean?
I guess so.
Because they never did that, because Disney and Nick
even Neo Saban didn't. Yeah, even Neo Saban didn't really like making references to the Disney era. And yet, even for me as a Sentai fan, knowing that, they were doing the whole Beforza thing, it didn't even occur to me that this is who they'd be bringing in at the end, but yet they went through all these different villains, and it was actually quite nostalgic. But leaving the nostalgia topic to the end, but still, I thought it was still bizarre that this episode, they claimed that they weren't able to get the audio track, so they just dubbed it with New Zealand actors. I thought that was a bit weird, because anyone could have just ripped it off the internet anyway, but still,
well, maybe they could have gotten the actors to call in their line, because I don't
think so, because again, the actor for Lord Zed had died, and again, Lord Zed was a character that they recapped in this episode. So I think they could have easily have got stock audio to match the stock visuals, but clearly didn't. And the fact is, we then get to see Goldar Maximus right at the end.
Which I like the creation of, by the way.
Which, to be fair, I like the creation of as well, but I'll still say I'm not sure how I felt about the voice that they had for him. Because
Goldar's
original voice, because Goldar's original voice,
and
it was, what's the word? it was to him. And yet, I'm not too sure about the one that they used for Goldar Maximus. And
they could have maybe explained it. He got older or something, or
there's no explanation anyway. But I don't think they'd need to explain it anyway, because they're not just trying to reach to old fans. They're trying to get to their younger audience. So it wouldn't necessarily need an explanation. But if they could have at least got something even remotely close to the original voice, that would have been cool for everyone all round, with no explanation needed. One last point I'd like to make about this episode is how they kind of had the jewelry store thing going on, and yet they did this whole cliche A, B, C, D. It's like, did they really need to do that? They could have, especially where Hasbro seemed to have a team of talented writers. They could have done something a little bit more clever than this is how we know it's going to appear next.
I remember them saying it starts with E or something, like the jewelry store start with an E. I was like, what?
And
Like,
it's
how
a
did that
case
make sense?
of, Ravi seems to know all the jewelry stores as well. Maybe he's been buying jewelry for Roxy.
I do think we should, this was a pretty decent clip show for Power Rangers in general, not Beast
I think it
Boys.
was a decent clip show for Tokusatsu all round because it's not a usual format, and they didn't just do it for their particular series, they went across the franchise. It was great.
And then they ended up defeating Sledge and his squad for the last time near the end, which is pretty cool. No,
Well, I'm sure we'll
I
see
do.
more of Sledge in the future anyway, right?
Yeah, I do hope they stop using Sledge and maybe make another villain, you know what I mean? I feel, okay, I have to, because we're getting ahead of ourselves, because we're going to talk about it later, Daniel, because I have something to say.
I'm going to lead into episode 14 or 13, Grid Connection. This is the big one. This is the one that everyone was talking about. And this is where, again, I was unaware that the UK was airing ahead of everyone in the world. So I was literally knocking about when they were airing it, and I only got to watch it a couple of days later, so I was a little bit gutted on that. But I watched it, I was in absolute tears. I was not disappointed at all. I mean, this is not an anniversary season, and it didn't need to be like super fanfare or anything, but it didn't need to have the gravitas that, say, Ninja Steel or Operation Overdrive or even Force had. And yet, knowing everything that was going to happen, I mean, seeing things like, the very beginning of the episode where Devon's really panicking and like everyone's in the Dino Charge universe, it kind of, to me, it was such powerful acting from Devon's point of view that, again, I was absolutely overcome with emotion watching this and seeing, it's a very, to me, it was a very iconic scene where Devon goes into the room that has like the bare essence of the morphing grid. And seeing Jason emerge was so powerful. It was so unexpected. It was simple, and still, it becomes like one unto itself. That's like, this doesn't need to be like the fanfare or super fight. Again, because it's not fighting sequence that we're seeing him. He's not like like in Megaforce where he's like jumping onto a car. He's emerging from this aura of the morphing grid. And that's all you really need to really make a powerful entrance. And for someone like the OG Red, as Austin St. John calls himself.
Was it as good as the Dimensions in Danger episode from Super Ninja Steel, or?
No, I mean, because it's a contrasting entrance to anything that Neo Saban had done. So, again, it's such, even though we've got like this crazy intro, this very chaotic intro of like the Rangers falling and, Devon's still in his dimension and he's king, and then they think of the solution, and the fact is, they managed to come up with the power coin, and just seeing that Tyrannus power coin flip in the air, it brings about such an emotion that I was so really powerful. Such powerful imagery that it brings to how I felt, and just everything that led up to the episode, it just unfolded in front of us, and it was such a powerful thing to see.
Just seeing him back after. How many years has it been since 2002 Forever Red? Because that was his last ever performance in Power Rangers.
I mean, it's like, you can't, for me, especially like where he looks so different because he's grown up, he's a lot older. Because when it came to Forever Red, he didn't look too different from his Zeo era. But yet, when we see him so many decades after, it's like he looks completely different. He sounds different. He's bigger. He's everything. And yet, he knows the gravitas of the situation. He knows how to lead. He knows how to help. He knows what he's doing. And just that they then go into the Dino Charge universe, and You know, and then it's like, oh, no time for introductions. And again, we've got these bizarre references to Ranger history class. But yeah, I'll still say, you know, it was a bit bizarre, you know, with the episode then involving the Dino Thunder team with no real context. But still, I think it's a very minor detail. I mean, obviously, Sentai fans will know that, you know, this is kind of a direct connection to the Versus movie, which is why they're there. But we didn't even get to see a vague reference to how that, you know, like they said, oh, we need the power of the dinosaurs or something. But we didn't really get the Dino Thunder, you know, relevance to it. But it's down to the audience to say, all right, this is all about dinosaurs or something. But bearing in mind that Beast Morphers is not about, you know, I mean, it's about beasts, but it's not strictly about dinosaurs.
I always wondered what Jason was up to since like Wildford. You know what I mean? Because they never really do go into this like his background. You know, like
I don't really think
I do wonder.
To be fair, you know, like I personally didn't feel that a backstory of what they were doing since. I mean, you know, like because you take
like how would he have known
comics, for example. They kind of tried to do all these backstories, but I think for Jason's appearance in Grid Connection, we didn't really need it. It was there. He was there. He did what he needed to do, and then he left so swiftly. And like, I think it's actually quite disappointing that this is the only appearance we get of him in this half. Like, so I heard rumors that he'd be in 2 episodes, but we get him in the 1, and it was absolutely amazing. If only he was in 2, it would have been great. But 1, like so many different people feel split. But yeah, I've seen so many opinions online already on how they felt about this episode. But me, I absolutely loved it.
It's not an anniversary special, so we can't say that. It's like genuinely a good Power Ranger special, you know? It's like, well, is it even really a special though? That's the thing. Like,
it technically isn't. It's just the fact that, oh, this is the storyline. That's how I saw it anyway, because again, it's not an anniversary series. It wasn't a Halloween. It wasn't a sports special. It was just there. That's what it was, and that's how it should be. It's subtle, it's understated, but the gravitas of it is felt by anyone who understands the significance of such a story. We've got Golden Opportunity here, literally, the name of the episode. This is where we get to see Nate's parents. Now, I felt that there was a lot of continuity issues at the beginning, you know, throughout this episode. I mean, firstly, we do like prior episodes from episode 1 right up to this episode. We get like 1 or 2 mentions of Nate's parentage, his upbringing, the fact that he never had a brother. And yet, I kind of feel that the introduction of Nate's parents here, they mention, oh, I've not seen them in 4 months. It's like, when did you see them in last 4 months? But yet, you know, it's then like, oh, we've heard so much about you, Zoe. But then they know all about his work at Grid Battle Force. They know about Steel. They seem to be very familiar with Ben and Betty. And I'll talk about Ben and Betty right at the end. But yeah, it was a very bizarre setup and, you know, a lot of continuity plot holes here, in my opinion. Yet, we're then introduced to this whole dynamic of, all right, we're sorry we've been away, but we want you to come away with us now. I kind of feel that, they are teaching some lessons here in this episode, but still, I kind of feel that a lot of cliches going on, because again, Nate's an adult now, he's employed at Grid Battle Force, he knows he's saving the world. And yet, this all seems to have been kind of brushed aside, and it's like he's acting like a child, in my opinion. Even though Nate is established, is actually a very brainy individual. He could have, they could have done this with one of the other characters so easily. It's a good lesson to, say, the younger audience members.
I do wish they could have maybe explained, like, what happened, you know? Like, I feel like Nate's parents should have been somebody we knew, like, you know, like a Power Rangers character, like, you know, maybe
I don't know about introducing a veteran as his parents, but
or maybe not be a parent, but
Zoe's mother, like, peppered through season 1 and the first half of season 2, which has been quite clever. but still, like, again, I found it very, the storyline behind Nate's parents and family, an origin story. I kind of felt that it's been very, again, inconsistent.
I don't know. I just felt like they kind of shoehorned this episode in just to fill up the production space.
Maybe it's a little bit of filler, but I do like, again, we do get to see some good action sequences. We do get to see, like there's some decent comedy here. Like we get to see Zoe blowing up like the transport system.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, one critic that I've had of, say, the Ben and Betty style comedy, which again isn't even, which just kind of stems from Victor and Monty and Bulk and Spike, more Neo Saban era, right? Where it's very Nickelodeon style. I actually felt that in the last few, and I'll touch on it more at the end, that at least there was a bit more substance to it with Ben and Betty at the end, and it kind of started from this episode where, again, they apparently knew Nate's parents, and we then get to see like everyone really struggling without Nate, which again doesn't quite teach a decent thing to younger audience members, but I do still like how we get to see at least some development in Nate.
Mm-hmm. Like I do think so too. Like we basically see that without him, the team does not know how to do his like technology and stuff. You know what I mean? And like they kind of did touch on it in the previous episode beforehand. I remember them saying that like I think Zoe or something was trying to do something, like she was trying to like work on a new weapon or something, but she couldn't do it without Nate's help or something. So that kind of explained how Nate is basically the building blocks that keep everybody together, and that's what I really like about that's what I like about this episode. It shows that he's still a part of the team, even though not a lot of people like him. And so
again, I mean, there's a few cliches in here, like again the whole making a tough decision, but I think at least the good cliche that they did introduce at the end is the whole, yes, Nate, we value you as a team member, we can't oppose without you.
Mm-hmm.
They could have done it a bit better, but at least, you kind of got that little bit of a sort of, value lesson there.
Looking at episode 15, Going 8, we see Robbie and Roxy are celebrating their anniversary and stuff, and Robbie's trying to share like his picture of her that he made of her, because if you saw in the earlier episode that he's a big fan of art and stuff, and it's really cool. It's like he's like, I want to surprise Roxy by sharing this image of me, or of her like and me embracing each other and stuff, and like it's like really cool. Like they basically, in the middle of the episode, basically he ends up ditching his stuff, and like basically the person who saved the stuff is named Stacy. Roxy thinks that's that girl he's talking to, and therefore it makes some trust issues to occur. And if you've been in a relationship, trust issues is something that can make or break your relationship. You can't trust each other. And like basically we see that happen, and like basically Robbie and Roxy have to, like, they end up splitting out for a bit, and it was only until Stacy was invited into the base, which I never actually seen like somebody like her get into the base, because I think you have to have clearance or something. You know what I mean? But like basically after she comes back, she returned with the picture, and like Roxy was like, "Oh shit, I fucked up. I'm sorry, Robbie." And they end up making up and stuff, and it's pretty cute,
Well, for me, I actually got very strong vibes from Go Busters in this particular episode. We get to see things like the fact that Ravi overheats, he goes absolutely schizo-mental in this episode, which is actually quite amusing. But it's like, I mean, considering the number of episodes that they, the limited number of episodes they have, it's a shame that we didn't get to see a little bit more progression, because even online people have noted that, we haven't really seen this for X number of episodes. I mean, in Go Busters, we get to see those weaknesses and, Go Buster, like, going absolutely mental quite a lot. So this doesn't occur with Ravi anywhere near as much, but we get to see it really in focus in this episode. And I like to think I'm actually enjoying the fact that this particular episode, even if it's a general cliche. It's actually unique to Rangers somewhat. I mean, I think they did something like that in Ninja Steel with the White and Yellow Ranger. But with this episode, yeah, they kind of made it a little bit more intense. Like, who's this Stacy? I kind of thought that was quite kind of amusing that they were trying to make it so mature.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and it's like, it doesn't matter what side of the argument you're on in that particular instance. You can really empathize with both sides.
Exactly, and that's what I like. That's something you don't really see in like kids shows. You know what I mean?
The
Like
only thing I would actually say, like, watching as an adult is I kind of watched this and I'm like, well, actually, all the problems that they had could have actually been resolved a lot easier. But then, living an adult life, I'm sure there are people that are always on situations or circumstances on the outside looking in, be like, oh, this is what the real solution should be. This is what the simplest solution can be. But I think it just shows when you're in the center of your own situation, you might not necessarily find that easy solution. I think, so again, you can be like, oh, but these are such menial problems that could have been solved so easily. And again, it kind of, like you can critique the story, the writing on that. But I think it also shows a bit of realism in a sense. For me, became a highlight, became in focus in this episode, is that, we know that since the beginning of season, this second season, that it's no longer an avatar, it's like these robot bodies that the data files have been uploaded to, and they have an infinite, they seem to have this infinite number of bodies. But like where we get to see Roxy, the real Roxy, for the first time in ages,
and I'm not.
Fans have been saying, oh, they seem, like the real Roxy and Blaze have disappeared. So we do actually get to see the real Roxy again after like maybe at least 10 episodes. And we get to see Blaze in the following episode. But still we see that, one thing that I noticed is that as soon as the real Roxy starts appearing in this episode, they then start referring to the robot bodies as Robo Roxy and Robo Blaze, which I don't really, like they may very well have referred to them prior, but to me this is like, oh, I'm going to kick your robot butt kind of thing. Like I never really saw them referred to as, oh, I'm going to get you robot kind of thing. I thought, they were kind of doing it like an insult. Which
that didn't really make any sense, Like, I don't know, like, it's like they have, like, bots have, like, emotions, or pain. They really don't. That's the very confusing thing, you know what I mean?
So, episode 17, this is insane. The Silver Switch. It starts off being this massive cliche episode. It's the brain switching episode. It's the body switching episode, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I'd say there was a massive inconsistency here where Nate was able to restore Chaku's robot become human and then back to human, but yet he's trying to make Steel go from all robot that then had a half human bit to then be full human, which is kind of some Pinocchio storyline. But then, they kind of get all this Ben and Betty style hijinks, which again seems to be getting a little bit more sophisticated as each episode goes along. And we then get to see them, like, all this hijinks going on. And then it's this massive, insane episode where I'm just like, what on earth is going on in this episode? And I've got to be honest, it's like it's such a break from how serious this whole series has been. Get to see like this massive musical number.
Oh yeah, it's great to be human.
I remember seeing them in the juice bar or whatever. Yeah, I remember seeing them in the gym setting that they're normally in. And he starts, and still in Nate's body, starts standing up on the table. And I was like, is he going to break into song or something? And then they break out into this massive musical number. I'm just like, what the hell is this? I'm just sat there, like this, laughing my arse off.
Were you cringing or
they actually did this?
Because the song, I listened to the song. It's not bad. It's the musical number itself where they have.
It's corny in my opinion, but go on.
Yeah, But like the song itself is actually pretty catchy. It's great to be human, and I love
It's so puerile as well, but it makes a kind of a point that's like we're all it's not like we've got a choice, but it's such a bizarre episode.
I really I like this filler episode. It does flip the plot, but it kind of just I don't know something about it just makes me smile. Like it has a very positive vibe about it.
I like the positive vibes. It's great. It kind of shows that they don't necessarily take themselves fully seriously, and seeing like everyone get involved in this number, and they didn't even do it like as a dream sequence or anything, which would have been another cliche trope onto itself. But even seeing how it all went down, and again, there was a couple of mild references to where like the whole body disintegration thing, which in the Go Buster storyline was actually a major thing, because you had like Beat Buster like in like his real body was disintegrating somewhere else, and you got to see like a real very brief clip of disintegration, and then you see right at the end they kind of switch back, and there's all this whole I'll still work on it, and maybe it's giving me this whole appreciation of being human. I mean, frankly, people can be neither here nor there on it.
Episode 17 brings Fossil Frenzy. It brings this dinosaur nostalgia back again, as we had another dinosaur episode of like 3 or 4 days before. I think that's where they started introducing the dino elements more, because this is what's happening, and they finally show the episodes. So I think they kind of knew they were going to be adopting another dino series again. This one is like, I kind of felt bad for her brother, because Zoe's kind of known to be clumsy and stuff, and she doesn't really like, I don't know, it's like, literally, she, like Nate said, the orange, like, can, and like, there's 2 oranges thing. I'm like, bro, what? Like, why would you even put that stuff? And like the hydrochloric acid that they had, that stuff's supposed to be sealed in like a container and stuff. You have to have like, you know what I mean? And she basically spilled it. I'm like, bro, that's not how a lab works. You know what I mean? And I'm like pointing out these things, and I'm like, she basically ends up climbing the mountain that her brother did, where he broke his arm, to try to get that same bone or something as a way to like identify the species and stuff. And I'm like, but basically they confirmed it's like a new species or something. She's like just trying to get him through this. Like, she ends up screwing his chances of going to college or getting admitted or whatever they had it. Well, like, she ends up making it up to him after she gets rescued, after Robo Roxy attacks her. And I think Robo Roxy was trying to get a new form of her, because she did upgrade her form a few episodes beforehand, because using the stock footage from like Go Buster Escape did get a new form, but I don't remember watching those episodes, so
Well,
but like,
I mean, touching on from your saying how that it could lead on to Dino Fury, it would be quite interesting if they did bring back Zoe's brother for Dino Fury.
That's what I'm thinking too.
It's a very long stretch, in my opinion, but who knows? I'd say I still like the appearance of Zoe's brother, as he was previously mentioned by Zoe in like maybe I think it was either the episode before or the one before that. Still, there was a mass confusion about all this different liquid stuff, and I've seen people online saying, "Oh, well, these should be like this, and the label should have been like that." But I think it seems to, like, the one thing when it comes to Zoe climbing this mountain to make right what she did wrong, it's like you then see at the end that they just fly away in the chopper anyway. She should have just gone in the chopper to begin with. And that's just my opinion of it. I'll say it's also hard to remember all these different forms of Roxy, because I don't remember so many forms in Go Busters like that. But still, we get to see how they managed to make this end to this constant robot regeneration. I think it was the episode before that they destroyed the robot machine.
It's kind of like,
at least we get to see the end of Robo Roxy.
And I'm like, finally, they decided to kill her off and now have her full character. Because I feel like when Robo Roxy was introduced, they kept on having like her character. They used Robo Roxy and not like the actor Roxy. I would have loved to see more Roxy scenes than not Robo Roxy, even though the actress who plays her is pretty hot. I'll admit. Like,
yeah.
And
I think acting, I mean, especially in the in the monster dimension scenes with Evox and stuff, I actually do think she's a good actress as well. But yet her acting as real Roxy just didn't feel that great to me.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe they just didn't really have anything to do because after she got freed from her thing, she didn't really like. They, if they had kept.
I mean, because even Blaze starts to get like a massive part in the following episode.
Mm-hmm.
We get to see like how they could have been implemented, but I guess it's like they've only got like 44 episodes over 2 years. Don't forget, Hasbro needs to find a way to get more episodes in per year. Maybe just do like a
30 episodes
series per year, but who knows?
Like I heard rumors that they made a deal on Netflix where they said they'll make original content based on comics and stuff. So we might be able to see like something where we see other shows getting adopted more. You know what I mean? With Netflix,
it'd be great to see. So looking at episode 19, this is Crunch Time. Crunch Time. It's a very cliche episode. I mean, I've not got too much to say on it, but like again, we do get to see a lot more comedy from Ben and Betty. We get to see like a lot more going on with them. But I'll say that it's very much the whole beating crews down, which I think no one's going to like that anyway. But again, time and time again, and even my critic of the first half of the second season is like, these are lessons that the team should have learned in season 1, that Devon should have known not to just, kick crews to the side so easily. And the fact that he's letting Blaze like diss him out, and then it is that massive cliche where again you've got like the real Blaze and you've got Robo Blaze, and yet they should have been able to tell the difference, but yet they don't. Grid Battle Force has all these security measures, they have all these doors, but throughout Beast Morphers 1 and 2, we get to see like different random people appear in the lab anyway. But if they're gonna let Blaze in, they should have at least security checked him, and then it's like you're a robot. You scan as metal as opposed to organic. But yet, we see Blaze Robo Blaze sort of cruise, literally walking about, bossing Devon around, telling them what to do. Like Nate comes up with this massive plan where he's dishing out folders, and Blaze is like, I think we should bring Evox in here. It's like, are you insane? But they've not even done, they've not even been able to establish that he's just there. So again, it's a massive plot flaw. And hopefully they'll be able to not make such essential, basic mistakes in both the writing and just the continuity of a scene given.
I feel like this episode is just a throwaway as a way to just start up the
Not really, because you've got to remember, at the end of this episode, we do see Evox in his little box.
Evox in a box.
Absolutely.
In episode 19, source code, we see Evox captured, and he basically ends up talking to the Rangers and stuff after they have him captured. And turns out Nate was the one who created him, and that is where this episode becomes probably one of the greatest continuity things. But basically, when Nate was a kid, it showed him as maybe a 6 or 7 year old. He was playing with Nate DNA and one of the RPM morphers, and while he put it in the thing. And that red little light, if you saw RPM, they basically revealed that Evox was Vengex all along. And therefore, when he reveals that, his voice becomes, I am Evox, I am free. And then it turns into Vengex. It's like, I am Vengex. It is time to take
Well, it was quite funny how they changed the voices for the different personalities.
It's the same voice actor too. He was using a fake name to play Evox, which is pretty cool. I admit, I was pretty happy. I'm like, holy shit! This is fucking awesome. And like just seeing it, like Evok turn into Vengex, I'm like, bruh, I was there 10 years ago when oh my god, it was just very cool to finally see like RPM and Beast Morphers are now connected, and that Beast Morphers is like the sequel that people have always wanted, you know, because RPM was dark, Ghostbusters was dark, and they're like, you know what, might as well make Beast Morphers dark, and they finally did something with that, and I'm very happy, and Nate starts to freak out because I created Evox. I can't do anything about it, you know? I was trying to calm down and have Dr. K actually interact with Nate. And that's what they do. She ends up coming in. She's like, hey, I'm Dr. K. I am the one who created the RPM Ranger powers or something, you know? And it's really cool seeing her return. She's just like, I'm going to teach you how to defeat Evox, aka Vengex. I don't know. Something about it just makes me just talking about it and just seeing them work together, her working together with Nate to create an antivirus, and it just, I don't know, something about it just really cool, and they really wanted to go all out for this and stick the landing.
Right. So I'll say I definitely agree with the fact that they went all out on it, but yeah, I can see especially all the points you make about this was a sequel that fans wanted an American adaptation of Go Busters to be. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I can see that. And it's almost like they have been listening to what fans want. But for me, it wasn't so much an exciting episode. So for me, it was a very dark episode. And yeah, I wasn't so much excited like many of the fans were. I mean, for me, seeing Nate's revelation of how he created Ewoks from snake DNA and the Vengex virus from one of the cell morphers, it ties in with the cliffhanger from 9 years ago, which I barely remembered at best. But I see how Nate, has had this guilt all along, and then he just lets out. Even for me, it's I felt his guilt. I felt everything that he was going through, and for me, it broke me down. I absolutely felt so bad for Nate, and then seeing Dr. K emerge in full. Now, for starters, she's grown up a lot. She's womanly a lot. But still, seeing her give this massive message to Nate is it's a very powerful bonding moment that they have. And yet, we still, when it comes to the comedy of RPM, it was a very unique comedy, especially for it being the end of the Disney era, which we don't see so much of the villains, but we got this massive homage here in Dr. K. And yet we see that humour when she's with Ben and Betty, and that was probably one of the lighter moments for me, and I absolutely loved it. But even when it comes to Ben and Betty, we get to see at the beginning where they are confronted by Evox, and then you see the rest of the crew running through, and they're literally tied up on the floor, and it's we nearly had him. It's no, you didn't. So we've got a few comedy moments, but I'll still say it's one of these things where we see some strong lessons taught here that really brings it back on par with Sentai, and the amount of emotion that I felt watching this episode, it's just beyond something that I barely remember thinking in Power Rangers for its history.
Man, it does great, and it starts to ending. So I do think we should move on to the last episode, because I think that's the main part we are going to be talking about, you know what I mean? So
episode 2021, Evox Unleashed. Now this is another cleverly titled episode, bringing it full circle from Beast Unleashed all the way to Evox Unleashed. We get to see that, there were a few holes in this episode, and again, we've got the epilogue of 1 year later in this. See him say, oh, I've got all the knowledge of Beast Morphers weapons, but then if he's Vengex, he would have had RPM weapon knowledge, but we see still using the Gem and Gemma's weapons. So we see a lot going on here, and again, I felt so emotional watching this. Seeing Steel sacrifice himself, that was a very powerful moment. One of the other powerful moments I felt as well was looking at how Devon tried to dismiss the whole team, but the team was standing behind him 100%. This reminds me a lot of SPD, it reminds me of a lot of several instances in Sentai. And
multiple
everything becomes so powerful, and you get to see some really clever stuff here, like the way they resolve it. The fact that they were against the odds. I mean, there are times where, even in Sentai, you get to see them against the odds and there's some stupid resolution. I mean, I think in this, like, the resolution is we get to see that the answer was always there. The answer was always hinted at in Season 2, the fact that he doesn't like human DNA. I love how that, even because if I was in such a situation, I wouldn't have been able to recall back to, what were the weaknesses? But again, the lessons that we've learned throughout this whole season, if someone hasn't grown watching this season, then there's something really missing. Well, they were not paying attention. I genuinely felt that, right, you know what, when you see the lessons of Dr. K, when you see the lessons that Jason brought, when you see the lessons that the mayor brought, again, it's all about staying calm, it's about keeping your composure. And things, and again, that resolution towards the end, it really hit home, and I'm just like, I am so proud of this season. It's unbelievable. And again, like when it comes to the epilogue, we've got all the cliches, and I'll talk about Steel's, Steel's rejuvenation at the end, after we start talking about the series overview. But I'll say that I cried at least twice in this episode, and again, so powerful in my opinion.
It did something that, like, it landed its ending. And, like, when's the last time we had, like, a good ending to a great show in Power Rangers?
I mean, like, again, it wasn't perfect, admittedly, but I'll still say they kind of really went out. And again, how do you end such a great series, which is something I feel in both Sentai, Kamen Rider, and Power Rangers anyway.
Like, this is probably one of the best tokusatsu endings I've seen in a long while, and that's, like, I'm not even talking about, like Sentai had not really had, like, a decent ending in, like, you know what I mean? Kamen Rider maybe, but not Sentai, though. Like,
I think this is kind of where we disagree. I mean, like, because where we're now going to go on to aspects of Beast Morphers overall, I'll say, like, Ryu Soldier, I actually did like Ryu Soldier's ending, and that was last year.
Yeah, like, what was Ryu Soldier about anyway? Like, I forgot the ending.
That's a different topic. So let's look at I'd like to look at some aspects of this series. Like, we talk a lot about, where we've got, like, Dino Charge coming in, we've had Austin St. John, Mighty Morphin coming in, we've had RPN coming in a very big way.
Oh yeah, we forgot.
It was definitely a really good series. And even if I'm like, areas of improvement, like especially in terms of plot holes, continuity, and even story flow. But sometimes, like, I could have said things that would have definitely played more on the nostalgia, and there's definitely a lot of nostalgia at play here in this series. But, it depends on how someone might want to saturate so much of a particular series.
Like, I do think they did go full out with the nostalgia in the last part, especially with RPM, because this is technically an anniversary show for RPM, and this is technically the end of an era, so they decided to connect this to RPM, which was the end of an era as well, the Disney era, and this is the end of the Saban era, because this is a transitional series. And I feel like in the last 10 episodes, Hasbro came in after Saban and decided to show what they were capable of, and that's what I enjoyed about these shows. And, like, I'm glad they actually finished the cliffhanger episode and actually defeated Evok, aka Venjek. But I do gotta ask, how did the RPM Morphers get into the real world? You know what I mean? Because they are in a different.
There's a lot of questions that occur when you think of things like that. There's only so much detail they can go into in 44 episodes.
I do think they should make a comic book maybe and explain the loose ends, if you get my drift. Maybe they can
I'll make a call to Boom Comics, say. I mean, when it comes to things like the nostalgia play, like, I've seen a lot of criticism that, And again, when they're comparing it to anniversary seasons, which, you know, like you look at Super Mega Force, that was massive nostalgia. The one thing I will say about Beast Morphers, though, is it doesn't need the nostalgia. I mean, it has a lot of nostalgia. It's a lot of nostalgia play. I mean, again, like I got so emotional watching this batch of episodes that we've just talked about. And again, I was in tears so much, which again, I'm pretty sure I've never felt this way about a Power Rangers series, but I'll say that this series did not actually need all that nostalgia at all. It was a very strong series on its own. Like, yeah, you could have taken out everything that happened with the nostalgia, and the fact that they make all these references to the morphing grid, etc. And again, that might even answer where you're saying, where did they get all the stuff from? Well, again, the morphing grid plays a very big part in both seasons of Beast Morphers. But I'm still going to say that, this didn't need the nostalgia. It was still a strong series without the nostalgia. The fact that Hasbro really are swinging their nuts around on this one, it's quite, it shows them how much potential that they have. But at the same time, they've really set the bar high for themselves. So who knows what Jungle Fury is going to bring.
Mm-hmm. I do hope Dino Fury is going to be amazing, because Ryusoulger's pretty decent. I did enjoy it, but there's a lot of filler for Ryusoulger, so hopefully maybe Dino Fury can correct that and maybe have it be like a story-centric series, like RPM was. And I do think they could do something with it, because Dino Fury sounds like Jungle Fury.
I think that's what a lot of people were kind of buzzing about when they revealed the name. But getting back to Beast Morphers, there's one, one thing that we already touched on briefly is like the strong cast that they had. And the main 4 actors, red, blue, yellow, gold, they are very strong actors. And I loved the portrayals that they gave. I mean, when it comes to certain relationship dynamics, not just Devon with Ravi or Devon with Zoe. I mean, Devon and Zoe was very strong at the beginning of season 1. And then we don't see so much of that going on. But then we see Zoe and Nate have a strong relationship. We see this Ravi and Roxy thing on and off. And then they really hit it hard at the end with their relationship anniversary episode.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to Blaze, they really kind of they show a lot of scenes in the gym, but it was only towards the end we see him in a couple of training scenes, and then that epilogue with Human still. It's I'm not too sure what was going on in his life in that year, but again, it's ironic that the supporting cast was still pretty decent, but that main 4, they really nailed it hard on that one.
And I love Human still. Just seeing him become a human, I was like, damn, son.
I'm going to touch on that towards.
And I got a lot of Operation. I got a lot of Operation Overdrive feels from when Will and what was the guy, Mac or something like.
Mac was the Red Ranger.
Yeah, he was a robot until the end, and where they had the corona.
The opposite. It was the opposite. He thought he was a human, and then at the end he was a robot.
Yeah, but then they made him a human officially, though, by putting the crown over his head. Okay.
So, what did you think of Scrozzle as a character in this show?
He was a little bit annoying. I do wish we could have seen some fight scenes with him. And I feel like they're not going to be done with him yet. I feel like they're going to do something where he ends up escaping. And when he escapes, he'll get defeated, Maybe if they decide to do a team up with Ryusoulger and Go Buster Zeus and stuff, I feel like they're going to do something big with him, I feel like they're going to use him as the bad of the series. And then maybe have him end up dying near the end, and a final death.
Well, it's quite funny when they used Colonel Truman to bring in Scrozzle right at the end.
Yeah, saying that he was hanging out in the sewage. When it comes
to analysing Scrozzle, he's very much you had the villains in Ninja Steel, and to me he kind of felt very similar to the Tokuja villain that they used in Ninja Steel.
Baron Nero.
Scrozzle was then in Beast Morphers. Again, that kind of grating personality was kind of you look at the original MOTW creator, Finster, he was at least he was very subtle. He was very Geppetto old man kind of thing. And yet this is something that they really trying to keep bringing back time after time. And Scrozzle was, they really need to find a unique angle for this because, it was already grating in Ninja Steel, and Scrozzle, like, they could have done something completely different with him, in my opinion.
I feel like they could have had him maybe fight the Rangers as well, just like make him like destroy him because I feel like they might be using him as a future villain to use.
It's always the cliche, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm kind of tired of them reusing like the Sledge and stuff, and I hope they don't do the same with Crowder where they use them every season, you know what I mean, in some way or form.
So when it comes to Evox, though, the main villain of both series, I absolutely love this whole Evox virus storyline, and everyone was making the Vengeance comparison anyway. But I think especially where we get to see him in his robot form for most of season 2, or actually pretty much all of season 2, he was very much a ha-ha-ha villain, sort of more villain. Apart from the fact, like they gave him a deep storyline right at the end, he's very much, apart from his like key plot lines, he's not very much like we've had so many unique Power Ranger villains, whether it's Lord Zed, Emperor Grum, Sledge. They could have done something along those lines with him, even though he is from the Go Busters universe. Like he still looks spectacular, but like most of the time he's just moaning in his dimension or he's running out of Morphex. They could have done a lot more with him, but at least aesthetic.
I felt like he was like a
comedy element of him like being more like he was always laughing a lot, which is very typical villain cliche, especially like at the end before Steel stabs him. It's very much. They could have done something a little bit different, but it was quite funny that they made him like that.
Like, I don't know. I felt like he was kind of like Xander, where he drank a lot, like it was mostly like tears and stuff, but like
I get that.
And like I feel like they could have maybe had, I don't know, maybe had Robo like maybe he sacrificed Blaze or something to become even more powerful, and they maybe could have added some stuff to his costume to make him be as strong as he was, you know what I mean? And not like absorb the morphing grid. Because I feel like or Robo Blade was just not really used that well, besides being the beating Ben, like the punch back for everybody else. You know what I mean?
We're gonna look at Steel's eventual epilogue where he becomes human, and the last few episodes they really push on him wanting to become human and trying to become human, and becomes human, which kind of it's very Disney. It's ironically very Disney cliche in my opinion. I like, people can be pleased with it, people might not be, and I'm like, because to be fair, Steel's demise did hit me quite hard. I actually cried my eyes out, admittedly.
Same here.
I will say that, him becoming human and then this actor, it's like, it was a very bizarre ending they gave him. And I'm like, I'm not too sure like how they shoehorned it in like in these last few episodes, because even though he was like learning about human behavior and stuff, like we see that progression going on since season 1. I'm still gonna feel like it wasn't necessary, and it was very, like again, I don't know how much they were taking from Disney, whether it was that ending or because there's a lot of Disney elements in it, but him eventually becoming like Pinocchio, like I've become a real boy. I think I kind of felt it was insanely cliche. So the final element I want to talk about is Ben and Betty. Now, I'll be honest, I have absolutely ratted on them since day one. And, they are very on par with Vic and Monty from Ninja Steel and Bulk and Spike from Samurai. And, there was some, like when it comes to the whole Nickelodeon era, it feels like they must have some say in how comedy is portrayed, because they're airing this show primarily. And yet, I'll say for Ben and Betty to give them some credit. The second, these batch of episodes that we've reviewed, I've actually seen an evolution in that comedy. So like they've managed, so somehow Hasbro or whoever's been writing Beast Morphers has managed to stick to this kind of Nickelodeon formula. But I'd say like it has got really funny. Like, one part that I forgot to mention is like in the Ravi and Roxy episode, you see them kind of being these waiters and then blowing their trumpets and stuff. It's very Nickelodeon. It's very kind of, those kind of Disney Plus shows that were on back in the day. But there was kind of like a very, like, almost a mature comedy element, like the way that they just wrapped up the tablecloth.
Yep.
Disappointing.
It's like, yep, that's Goldberg.
And things like I already mentioned when they're on the floor and they're like, we nearly had him, like talking about their confrontation with Evox. This is some alternative comedy writing that isn't normally seen on Nickelodeon. So they like again, I was ratting on them the same way that I didn't like Vic and Monty. But yet, because with Vic and Monty, they gave them like this very key point plot role right at the end of Super Ninja Steel. But Ben and Betty, at least it felt gradual. Like you saw them taking on responsibilities, and then even them sort of combining with Dr. K's RPM style humor. It was great. It was great to see. I mean, even their sort of epilogue, it made sense. It was great to see, as I said. And I got to give it to them. They are both very talented actors as well, and there's not much more I can add to this whole review.
Yeah, like I feel like Ben and Betty were done way better than Vic and Monty, because Vic and Monty, I don't know, something
I'd say
about
they started the same, but again, this last 10, 12 episodes,
they grow.
They somehow managed to pull it out extra.
Yeah, and I do hope that next year when they do Dino Fury, that like the characters aren't going to be as annoying in there, because it does seem from what I read that they're going to bring back the comedy duo again for this.
I've seen the casting of the casting call for that.
And I think I know who the alien is. You know what I mean? The green one from Real Soldier. I think they're going to use that costume and not have him be a bad guy. You know what I mean? So, hopefully it doesn't end up like that, and hopefully we'll have some good writing, because Real Soldier the villain of Real Soldier didn't really have like much of an arc until the end. You know what I mean? There was often multiple generals coming in multiple times, and it just didn't make sense.
So thank you all for watching. This has been our review of the second half of Beast Morphers. You can catch us all on social media at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon. Like, comment, pledge, subscribe, and we'll see you all next time.
See you guys! Let's morphin'!